You've probably done it 1,000 times without thinking, crumpling up a receipt, sliding it into a purse, or letting it sit in a drawer for weeks. But what if that little slip of paper, quiet and almost invisible, still holds on to your money's story? And what if where you place it could determine whether wealth flows back to you or quietly slips away? In traditional Feng Shui, a receipt isn't just a transaction, it's the final echo of energy you once held. A whisper from your past spending that either closes a loop or leaves it hanging. And when a bill or receipt is left forgotten, under a stack of mail, on the kitchen counter, or worse, in the trash, its energy can stagnate. Instead of calling money home, it sends your intentions out with nowhere to return. But there is a place, both ancient and gentle, that can turn a simple receipt into a magnet for flow. For centuries, healers have whispered of this nighttime ritual, placing a bill beneath the left side of your pillow for exactly 3 nights. Done properly, it helps release debt, reset your relationship with money, and soften the old belief that abundance must always be hard-earned. So tonight, before you sleep, pause, ask yourself, where is the last bill you touched? Is it calling for closure or asking to be seen again with love? Number 1, the most common mistake. Tossing bills around blocks your wealth flow. There's something strangely emotional about the little papers we overlook. Bills, receipts, payment slips. They gather quietly in corners of our homes, stuck in drawers, tucked inside purses, or flattened under piles of mail. Most of the time, we don't even notice them. A quick glance, then off to the trash, or forgotten until they fade. But in Feng Shui, nothing is just nothing. Even the smallest object holds a current, and when it comes to receipts, that current is especially sensitive. A receipt is the final moment of a financial exchange. It holds the last vibration of what was spent, given, or released. And if that energy isn't honored, it can't complete its cycle. When we treat receipts as garbage, we also unintentionally tell the universe that the money tied to them is finished. We don't expect it to return, to transform, or to carry meaning. But in doing so, we might be cutting off the natural return flow. Money, like water, wants to move in full circles. When you interrupt that loop, especially by ignoring the symbolic echo, it slows down. It might not stop altogether, but it no longer moves freely. Eastern traditions have always treated written documents as more than just ink on paper. A receipt is no exception. It is a record, yes, but also a container of emotion. Each one holds more than numbers. It might carry the memory of a hard-earned purchase, a moment of sacrifice, a proud repayment, or even a gesture of generosity. These emotions stay attached to the paper long after the event itself is over. When receipts are left unattended, crumpled, scattered, buried under clutter, they become energetic residue. They carry unprocessed feelings, unresolved stories, and unfinished loops. Over time, that residue accumulates, and without realizing it, we begin to feel as though money doesn't stay, as if it always slips through our fingers. Not because of what we spend, but because of how we treat the echoes that remain. It's easy to think that money problems are purely practical, but in the language of energy, practical acts are also spiritual choices. Ignoring what we've spent is a way of denying the emotion that went with it. And when we repeatedly deny what we feel about money, especially feelings like shame, guilt, or fear, we reinforce the sense that we are undeserving or disconnected from the flow of abundance. Some receipts, though faded and quiet, still hold power. The power to remind us of what we gave, of what we overcame, of what we hoped for. When we toss them aside without recognition, we ignore the version of ourselves that once said, "This matters." Even if the item was small, the feeling was real. And in Feng Shui, real feelings create real currents, There is a simple remedy for this. Begin by gathering a few receipts that stir emotion, good or difficult. Smooth them out, feel them again gently without judgment, and instead of letting them disappear into the clutter, create a resting place. A drawer, a tray, a silk pouch, anything that tells the paper, "I see you." This doesn't have to be a shrine, just a corner of stillness where old money stories are allowed to breathe. By doing so, you begin to honor the full life of your financial flow, not just the moment it arrives, but also the moment it leaves. And in doing that, you invite return. Energy cannot come back to a door that has been shut, but it will return to a space that feels open, gentle, and willing. This isn't about superstition, it's about respect. When you begin to respect the paper trail of your own journey, yes, even the receipts, you begin to respect your relationship with money. And money, in turn, feels safe to return. The practice of placing a bill beneath your pillow for 3 nights builds on this foundation. It works best when you begin with care, by shifting how you see the paper itself, not as trash, not as something to hide or rush away, but as a witness, a tiny, powerful witness to your choices, your emotions, your growth. So before moving into the ritual, start here. Look again at what you've overlooked. That small slip of paper may be waiting to come full circle, not because of what it cost, but because of what it still carries. Let your hand pause before you toss another receipt. Ask quietly, is this a leftover from the past, or a quiet invitation for something to return? Number 2, why your pillow is the hidden gateway between money and mind. Have you ever wondered why some thoughts stay with you long after you've fallen asleep? Or why the same worries seem to return night after night, as if the bed itself remembers? In Feng Shui, that's no coincidence. Your pillow, the very place where your head rests each evening, is more than comfort. It's a gate, a delicate, deeply personal passage between your conscious life and your inner world. When we sleep, the mind softens. The noise of the day fades and the subconscious, quiet, tender, incredibly receptive, begins to speak. And what you place near it in that stillness matters far more than most realize. Your pillow is not just fabric and stuffing. It holds your breath, your dreams, your anxieties. It cradles your thoughts when no one else is watching. In many Eastern traditions, the pillow is believed to store the residue of consciousness. That means everything you carry to bed, the thoughts you fall asleep with, the feelings left unspoken, the objects you allow close, all influence the tone of your inner energy. That's why placing a bill or a receipt under your pillow is not superstition. It's a message. A message you are choosing to send directly into your deepest self. And the left side of the pillow holds special meaning. In classical Feng Shui, the left side is known as the green dragon side. It represents birth, new opportunities, and receptivity. Energetically, it's the side of the heart, the place of openness and arrival. Placing a carefully chosen receipt beneath the left side of your pillow is a symbolic act of return. It says, "I'm ready for this to come back in a new form." It gently hands your desire, not to your intellect, but to your intuition. And that's the true power of this ritual. You're not trying to manifest with effort or force. You're allowing the subconscious to absorb the feeling of enoughness, of release, of trust. People often wonder why results don't show up right away. The truth is, the mind that asks for change must first believe it can receive. And belief isn't just mental, it's physical. It's where you sleep, what surrounds you, what you allow into your sacred, dreaming space. So what happens when you slide a receipt under your pillow? Quietly, without telling anyone, without expectation. You begin to realign the internal stories you carry about money. You speak to the part of you that doesn't need logic, that simply feels worthy or not. That's why it works best when done in stillness, in silence, and always for exactly 3 nights. 3 nights gives the subconscious a rhythm, a chance to remember, to accept, to shift. But more than anything, it gives you a moment of pause, a way to whisper, "I'm willing to receive. I no longer carry this debt in fear. I return it to the flow." It's important to remember, this is not about the object, it's about the energy behind it. Folding the receipt with intention, placing it softly, and letting go afterward, these are movements of healing, not superstition. They don't require belief in magic, only belief in meaning. What you sleep with becomes part of your next day. So let this act become more than a ritual, let it be an invitation. Not for wealth to arrive suddenly, but for your heart to make space for it, slowly and surely. Before you go to bed tonight, ask yourself, if my pillow is a gate, what energy am I letting in? Number 3, not all bills are equal. Choose the right one for debt, flow, or growth. Not all bills are created equal. Some hold weight, others hold memory. And a few, when chosen with care, hold the key to letting energy move again. If you've ever followed a Feng Shui ritual or practiced mindfulness with your finances, you've probably heard that intention is everything. But intention is not just about thought. It's also about what object you choose to carry that thought. In this case, the bill or receipt you place under your pillow isn't just a placeholder. It's a messenger. It speaks for a certain part of your financial past. And just like voices, not all receipts speak the same language. That's why selecting the right one, specifically for what you want to shift, is the foundation of this ritual's power. You wouldn't write a love letter and hand it to a stranger to deliver, would you? The same goes for the energy of money. It responds to clarity, connection, and emotional resonance. So how do you know which receipt is right? It begins with feeling. Pick up a few old bills or slips from your wallet, your purse, or even the corner of your desk. Don't rush. Let your fingers move gently, like you're choosing something sacred. And as you touch each one, ask quietly, what does this one still carry? You may be surprised by the answers. One might stir regret. Another might bring a soft memory of a family meal. A third might remind you of a payment you were proud to make, even if it wasn't easy. These are the threads to follow, because receipts don't just record spending. They record emotional states, and your subconscious responds not to numbers, but to emotion. There are 3 types of receipts that speak loudest when it comes to Feng Shui rituals for wealth. The debt closer, the outflow healer, and the income amplifier. The debt closer is the kind that ends a financial loop. A loan finally paid. A credit card settlement. A bill that kept you up at night, now finished. This kind of receipt is powerful because it holds closure. When placed under your pillow, it whispers, "This burden is no longer mine." If you've carried guilt, fear, or shame around owing, this is the one to use. It's not just about money, it's about setting down the emotional weight that's traveled with it. Then there's the outflow healer. These are receipts from everyday life, groceries, utilities, gas, medicine. These slips often carry subtle fear. Will I have enough? They reflect the quiet tension behind ordinary survival, but they can also be used to rewire that story. When placed under your pillow with gratitude, "Thank you for letting me provide. I trust this will return in new form." These receipts shift from scarcity to flow. They remind your inner world that spending is not loss, it's movement, and movement invites return. Finally, the income amplifier. These receipts are rare, not because they're hard to find, but because we rarely honor them. Think back to a time when you were paid for something with joy. A check that arrived at just the right moment. A transaction that made you feel valued, seen, empowered. Maybe it was your highest invoice, or maybe it was a small sale that felt like a turning point. These receipts hold expansion. They carry the energy of yes. Placing them under your pillow strengthens that frequency. It says, "More of this, please." It tunes your inner channel to growth, ease, and visibility. The beauty of this practice is that you don't have to get it perfect. But you do need to be present. When you choose a receipt, you're not just picking a piece of paper. You're selecting a message to carry into sleep. And sleep is when the mind opens most willingly. It's also important not to mix the messages. Don't fold a debt receipt with an income one. Don't ask the same paper to speak two languages. In Feng Shui, clarity is kindness. Let each intention stand alone, fully seen, fully felt. You can repeat this practice with different receipts across different cycles. 3 nights with one, 3 with another if needed. But always give space between them. Let the previous message settle before you begin a new one. Before placing the receipt under your pillow, you might wish to write a short sentence on its back. A phrase that captures the feeling you want to grow. Something like, "This chapter is closed. I welcome freedom. I trust what I gave will return with grace. I receive abundance with calm and clarity." These are not affirmations to force belief. They are reminders. Whispered agreements between your outer and inner world. They help the paper become more than a record. They help it become a bridge. Tonight, when you sit down to choose, take your time. Light a candle if it helps. Let your hands listen. There is no rush. The right receipt will make itself known, not through logic, but through a small tug in the heart. And when you find it, you'll know, this is the one. This is where the message begins. Number 4, why it must be 3 nights, no more, no less. 3 nights, not 1, not 5, just 3. It may sound arbitrary, but in the quiet language of healing, numbers are never random. There's something ancient and powerfully human about the rhythm of 3. Think of how many sacred practices repeat in 3s. 3 breaths before prayer, 3 knocks on a door, 3 times we say, "I love you," just to make sure it sinks in. In spiritual traditions across the world, 3 represents a cycle, beginning, middle, and release. It is the rhythm of initiation, transformation, and completion. When we work with intention, especially in rituals involving sleep, memory, and money, the subconscious needs time to listen, respond, and absorb. 1 night is not enough. It plants the seed, but the soil is still unsettled. 2 nights deepens the echo, but often the energy is still shifting. It is on the 3rd night that the message truly begins to anchor. This isn't about superstition. It's about frequency, the frequency of your thoughts, the repetition of your energy. The subconscious mind, the part of you that quietly runs 90% of your life, doesn't speak logic, it speaks rhythm. And rhythm is how it begins to trust something new. For many women, especially those over 50, the idea of asking for wealth again can feel strange. After decades of putting others first, of working hard, saving, sacrificing, it may feel indulgent to ask the universe for more. Especially through something as soft as sleep. But this is not indulgence, it's permission. 3 nights gives you a container, a pause, a reason to sit with your own worth night after night without guilt. That alone is healing. You're not just shifting energy, you're shifting the emotional story beneath it. The one that says, "I should be grateful with what I have," while quietly aching for ease, for flow, for something more generous. So why not just keep going after 3 nights? Why not make it 7 or 30? Because in Feng Shui, intention needs boundaries. Without boundaries, energy becomes scattered. When you set a ritual to exactly 3 nights, you create a defined arc. Like lighting a candle that burns fully, then is gently extinguished. You allow the wish to take form, and then you release it. Many women, especially those who have lived through uncertainty, have learned to hold on tightly. to repeat prayers with anxiety, to ask again and again out of fear it won't be heard. But the magic of this ritual isn't in the asking. It's in the entrusting, and entrusting means knowing when to stop. When you perform the ritual for 3 nights, no more, no less, you're also practicing surrender. You are saying to the world, I've done my part, I've spoken softly, now I wait. And there is beauty in that kind of stillness. It allows space for something to return. After the 3rd night, the best thing you can do is leave the receipt in its place for 1 more evening, then gently unfold it, thank it, and place it in a quiet drawer or pouch. Do not speak about it. Do not retell the story. Simply let it rest. Like a seed under soil, it no longer needs sunlight. It needs trust. If you find yourself anxious, wanting results, watching your bank account, questioning your belief, pause. Remember, this ritual is not a transaction. It's a healing conversation with yourself, and healing moves at the speed of readiness. Over the years, many have shared with me, after the 3rd night, something small always shifts, not always money. Sometimes it's a lightness. Sometimes a forgotten debt is repaid. Sometimes a new offer comes in quietly, almost unnoticed. But always there is movement, because 3 nights of conscious intention clears space in the energy field for something to arrive. And even if the world doesn't respond immediately, you've done something most people never dare to do. You've treated your financial energy with reverence. You've stepped into stillness instead of fear. And that in itself changes the way life responds to you. Tonight, if you're on the 1st night of your ritual, let it be simple. Do not overthink. Place your hand on the pillow and whisper a sentence that feels gentle. Something like, I am open, I am safe, I am ready to let this return. And on the 2nd night, repeat, not louder, just deeper. And on the 3rd night, smile softly, you've done enough. Number 5, the rule no one talks about, the power of sacred silence. There is one part of this ritual that no one talks about, not because it's secret, but because it's subtle, almost invisible. And yet it holds more power than all the rest. It's the silence, the part where you say nothing, tell no one, and let the wish rest. In a world that rewards sharing, oversharing, and constant talking, silence can feel unnatural. We're taught to process aloud, to explain what we're doing, to seek validation, or even just connection. But in the realm of energy, silence is not emptiness. It is a container. When you place your chosen bill or receipt under your pillow, you've already sent out a message. Your intention has taken form, in paper, in ink, in breath. It's done. There's no need to tell a friend or post it online or ask others what they think. In fact, the more attention you draw to it, the more you dilute its strength. This is not about being secretive. It's about being sacred. Sacred energy doesn't like to be exposed too early. Like a flower bud, it opens when the time is right, not when it's forced or pulled into the light too soon. And when you share your intention before it's rooted, it's like planting a seed and then digging it up each day to check if it's growing. Many women, especially those who have carried long seasons of silence in their lives, feel a deep yearning to be heard. That yearning is valid, but there's a difference between the silence that hurts and the silence that heals. One is suppression. The other is sovereignty. This kind of silence, the kind you hold during a ritual, is not lonely. It's empowering. It says, I don't need to prove this to anyone. I trust it enough to carry it myself. And that trust builds a different kind of magnetism, a quiet confidence that doesn't need permission or praise. Sometimes the urge to speak comes from doubt. We want someone else to tell us we're doing it right, that it will work, that it's okay to want more. But in Feng Shui and in most healing traditions, the act of speaking carries energy out. Words, especially spoken too soon, disperse the momentum. They take what's intimate and make it external. And what is external can be influenced, interrupted, or questioned. That's why the quiet phase, the days after you've done the ritual, is as important as the ritual itself. Think of it as the cooling time after baking, or the settling time after stirring tea. If you rush to open the oven, the bread collapses. If you drink too soon, the leaves haven't had time to release their meaning. So what do you do instead of speaking? You listen, not to others, but to yourself. You watch what shifts inside you, what thoughts soften, what doors begin to open without force. You live as though the prayer has already been heard, because it has. You hold space for it, like a warm light you don't need to explain. For women in their 50s and beyond, who have spent much of life in service, in noise, in caretaking, this silence can feel radical. To hold something only for yourself, to honor your desire without broadcasting it, to believe that quiet is strong, not weak. That's why the most powerful rituals are the simplest ones. Not because they lack depth, but because they leave room for mystery. They remind you that not everything needs to be seen to be sacred, that some things grow best in the dark. And when the ritual is complete, after the 3 nights have passed, resist the urge to check on it. Don't measure the outcome in money alone. Watch how you feel instead. Is your mind softer around finances? Do you feel less urgency? More trust? That too is wealth. That too is arrival. Let your life become the answer, not your voice. Let your actions, your quiet, intentional movements be the signal. You've already said what you needed to say. Now let the universe answer in its own way. Number 6, how a simple bill can heal your fear of money. It's just a slip of paper, ink on faded lines. A number, a date, may be the name of a store. But in the quiet world of healing, even a small receipt can carry the weight of old fear and the power to dissolve it. Money fear rarely starts with money itself. It begins with emotion, tightness in the chest when the bills arrive, the silent shame of not knowing enough, the long echo of being told as a child, "We can't afford that." Over time, that fear becomes a rhythm. You stop expecting ease. You prepare for struggle. You make money, but you can't hold it. Or you hold it, but you can't enjoy it. For many women, especially after 50, the fear of money has been carried for decades. Not just personal fear, but inherited fear. Handed down by mothers who stretched every dollar. Reinforced by relationships where they earned less or sacrificed more. And sometimes carried alone through divorce, caregiving, or simply survival. That's why this ritual, so quiet, so simple, can become something much larger than it seems. When you take a receipt and place it under your pillow, you are not trying to get rich. You are trying to make peace. You are asking the fear to soften. You are allowing yourself to see that money is not your enemy. It is memory. And memory can be rewritten. Every time we spend, we feel something. Sometimes it's guilt. I shouldn't have bought this. Sometimes it's grief. I wish I didn't have to pay for that. And sometimes it's pride, relief, or quiet joy. But we rarely slow down to ask, what feeling is attached to this receipt? That feeling doesn't vanish when the money leaves your hands. It stays. It lingers in your body. And it lingers on the paper. That's why a receipt is more than a financial record. It is an emotional imprint, a frozen moment of belief. And if that belief was fear, it's time to release it. The practice of placing the bill under your pillow gives you a chance to meet the fear, not with force, but with softness. You're not trying to control it. You're simply saying, I see you. You've been here a long time, but you don't need to stay. And you don't need to understand every layer of the fear to begin. Maybe you were always afraid of not having enough. Maybe you feared becoming a burden. Maybe money was used to control you, or maybe you used it to protect others while quietly abandoning yourself. Whatever the story, this ritual creates a pause. And in that pause, there is space for something new. Here's how: 1. Naming the feeling. Before placing the receipt under your pillow, hold it in both hands. Close your eyes. Ask yourself gently, what did I feel when I spent this money? Don't judge, just notice. Was it anxiety? Was it duty? Was it love? Whatever it is, name it softly. Naming the feeling helps you honor it and then release it. 2. Writing a release. Flip the receipt over. On the blank side, write one sentence, not a wish but a truth, something like, "This is what I could do at the time." "This was an act of care, not shame." "I no longer carry guilt for giving." Let the sentence come from your heart, not your head. Let it be enough. 3. Resting in trust. Place the folded paper under your pillow for 3 nights, not as a magic trick, but as a message to yourself. I am safe enough now to stop fearing this. Each night, repeat that softly as you settle into bed. Let your body hear it. Let your breath believe it. Over time, something will begin to shift. Maybe not in your bank account right away, but in your chest, your jaw, your sleep. The part of you that was always bracing will begin to relax. And when you relax, energy flows differently. You spend differently. You save without fear. You give with joy. Most importantly, you begin to believe that money is not about worth. It's about relationship. And like any relationship, it responds to tenderness. When you stop fearing it, it stops avoiding you. This is why many women find themselves stuck in cycles of financial tension. Not because they lack knowledge, but because they carry unspoken emotional debt. Debt from old decisions. Debt from silence. Debt from living so long in survival mode that thriving feels suspicious. This ritual doesn't promise windfalls, but it offers something deeper, the return of safety. The moment you start to see your money story not as a failure, but as a passage. A long, winding one, but one that brought you here, to a place where you can now choose peace. The receipt under your pillow may not change the world overnight, but it will change the way you dream, and that changes everything. So tonight, take the paper, take the breath, and ask gently, what part of me is still afraid? And what would it feel like to let that part rest just for tonight? Final, there's something deeply tender about the space between sleep and waking. That brief moment before the world returns, before the list of to-dos, before the headlines, before the heart remembers its old concerns. In that space, truth speaks without needing to explain itself. That's where the ritual lives, not in logic, not in results, but in that quiet pocket of trust. A folded receipt under your pillow is not a solution. It is an invitation. A way of saying to your deeper self, I am no longer afraid to hold what I once tried to throw away. It is not about the money. It never was. It's about the moment you choose to treat your past, not with regret, but with reverence. Think of that receipt like a small paper boat, fragile, unassuming, but once set on still water, it begins to carry something. Not heavy cargo, not urgent declarations, just a message, a soft signal that says, this part of my story deserves to float, not sink. It has carried me far enough. Now I let it go with love. No one else needs to see it. No one else needs to understand. The water understands. The night understands. And your body, your breath, your own quiet longing, they understand too. So perhaps the next time you lie in bed and feel the weight of unspoken worry, you can remember that a piece of paper, once meaningless, can become sacred when held with care. That even a transaction can become a turning point when seen through the eyes of grace. And maybe that's all healing really asks of us, not to fix everything, just to listen long enough for something old to soften. Tonight, ask yourself, not with pressure, but with kindness, what have I been carrying like a burden that is now ready to rest quietly under my pillow?